I'm going to do something I haven't done in a while, maybe ever. Okay, wait, that isn't true. I've done this before in other Star Wars series. I'm going to talk about something I didn't like in The Mandalorian Season 3, specifically one aspect missing from The Mandalorian that could have been a bad move on the part of Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau, and that is the fact that Boba Fett is missing from the entire season. But wait, don't run away screaming just yet. I'm going to give my thoughts on it as well. Then I'll give my thoughts on why it didn't happen. But I feel like this should be addressed. As I sat and thought about my other reviews of The Mandalorian Season 3, I realized I didn't give a proper critique. I talked about all the things I liked and didn't mention things I didn't like. And there weren't many things I thought could have been done better, but the lack of Boba Fett was one of them. I'm not going to sit here and say Lizzo and Jack Black didn't belong in Star Wars. Why? Because celebrities have been sprinkled throughout Star Wars since the beginning. Think about it. Before Peter Cushing was Grand Moff Tarkin in A New Hope, he had appeared in close to 100 films. He was a famous vampire hunter called Van Helsing. Famous. Did a vampire hunter belong in Star Wars? Well, he fit and it worked, so why not? Then when The Phantom Menace released, we had celebrities like Liam Neeson and Samuel L. Jackson as Jedi. Liam Neeson? Sure, seems like a good fit, still a celebrity, but Samuel L. Jackson? Samuel L. mother-effing Jackson. We all had doubts. Why would George Lucas cast someone with such a reputation for potty mouthery as a Jedi? Yes, I know it isn't a real word, but the fact remains, he was a celebrity and didn't seem like a fit at that time. Now, sure, he's become a staple in the prequel era, so I thought of Jack Black and Lizzo in Star Wars much the same way I first thought of Samuel L. Jackson, and Jack Black could have been much worse. Come on, admit that. But back to Boba Fett. In the book of Din Djarin, the book of Luke Skywalker, the book of Boba Fett, 2 entire episodes were taken away from the titular character and given to Din Djarin and Luke Skywalker. That's one thing I did have a problem with at the time, and I voiced that. Those arcs really didn't fit. Why was it important to show Din Djarin unable to wield the Darksaber or Grogu's training with Luke Skywalker in a show about a guy who didn't care for Mandalorian life nor ways of the Jedi? If they wanted Din Djarin to show up for the final battle on Tatooine, it would have been easy to have a 5-minute clip of Din Djarin arriving at Peli Motto's garage with Fennec Shand waiting. Boom! Boba Fett gets his 2 episodes back. 2 episodes that could have gone a lot deeper into his own story. But then to omit Boba Fett from The Mandalorian Season 3 altogether seemed a bit unfair. But I had a thought that it may happen before the season even began. Why? Because Dave Filoni basically told us he didn't like Boba Fett. He saw him as a side character who really added nothing to the Star Wars original trilogy. But before I go on and disagree with Dave Filoni, that's right, I disagree with the Star Wars creator. Let's hear a little something from our sponsor. Me. Hit the subscribe button and give the video a big fat thumbs up. I'm on a mission to make this the biggest and best Star Wars YouTube channel on this side of the Milky Way. I know every other YouTube channel asks for your subscription, but mine is special. Why? Because this is freaking Star Wars, baby, and I absolutely promise to deliver on giving you the best and most positive Star Wars content YouTube has to offer, and all original content too, with no rehashes of what other channels talk about. So if you love Star Wars and want to party like it's 19 BBY, welcome home. And by the way, I'm back, baby, and feeling better than I have in a while. Okay, let's get back to Boba Fett, The Mandalorian Season 3, and Dave Filoni. As I mentioned, Dave Filoni isn't a fan of the character of Boba Fett. I'm not going to play the clip, but I'll leave a link in the description below. Dave Filoni says that Boba Fett really didn't do much, that he wasn't even the one to capture Han Solo. Well, I have to disagree with most of that. Boba Fett wasn't hired to capture Han Solo. He was hired to track down the Millennium Falcon, which He did. But to say Boba Fett didn't really add to the story is just wrong. If not for the famous bounty hunter, we would not have had the "I am your father" scene the way we did. The whole Cloud City story would have been different. Then we would not have had the Jabba the Hutt bit in Return of the Jedi the way we got it. In fact, if not for Boba Fett finding Han Solo and company on Cloud City, the entire original trilogy would have gone much different. So, Dave Filoni, you're just wrong. I know this is much different than my other videos, but I promise there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's move on to The Mandalorian Season 3, shall we? Boba Fett was missing. How many of you were watching every episode and wondering if this was the one Boba Fett would get pulled into? Then, when it was over, how many of you thought, okay, there has to be an end credits scene? I did. Recently, there have been reports that Temuera Morrison displayed a certain dismay for not returning in The Mandalorian. He said he was told he would be in it and that he sat and waited for the call, but it never came. But wait, Temuera Morrison was in The Mandalorian Season 3, not as Boba Fett, but as the voice of the clones in the Order 66 arc with actor Ahmed Best and Grogu. But that doesn't stop the feeling that something was definitely missing with the absence of Boba Fett. And when we think about what Dave Filoni has said and the dismay Temuera Morrison may have for the treatment of his character, we have to consider something else. Did it make sense to put Boba Fett in The Mandalorian Season 3? Well, with the way the story played out, I say no. And it pains me to say that. Since 1980, Boba Fett has been my favorite Star Wars character. But it honestly would have just been fan service to include him in the latest installment. And I don't know about you, but fan service is fun to an extent, but I don't like being pandered to. It makes me feel small, like I can't enjoy something unless a needless cameo is thrown in. I'm not here to say everything produced under the Star Wars brand is amazing. It all has flaws. And I know I tend to go more on the positive side of things than talking about anything negative. But this time, I just want to be fair and balanced. I enjoy Star Wars for what it is, a series of fantasy stories that defy all logic and take me to a place where there is no mundane. I enjoy the way The Mandalorian Season 3 played out. I thought it was well done with few character cameos to prop it up. There was no need for Luke Skywalker, Boba Fett, nor Ahsoka Tano to show up to save the day. The characters used the resources they had to problem solve and figure out a way without outside influence. This is something the Mandalorians have been doing since their culture began. That's one reason I took issue with Luke Skywalker showing up in The Mandalorian Season 2. It didn't allow for Din Djarin and Bo-Katan Kryze to figure it out. It kind of cheapened what the Mandalorians are. But it was a good scene anyway. Now, let's get back to Dave Filoni's comments. Even though Dave Filoni stated that he isn't a fan of Boba Fett, he has done some things to further the character, not for his own enjoyment, but because he knows there are a lot of fans who want the character expanded on. For instance, he created the whole childhood story arc of Boba Fett during the Clone Wars animated series. Was it fan service? No, it was growing a character that fans like, not just sprinkling him in for a familiar face. Dave Filoni was also part of the creation process when they were bringing Boba Fett back in The Mandalorian Season 2, and one could argue that that was the best we have seen Boba Fett to date. Just because Boba Fett wasn't in The Mandalorian Season 3, it doesn't mean his character is written off completely. In fact, the Mandalorian movie is set to combine all the stories of this timeline into that film. That includes the Book of Boba Fett. This story is a long game. It isn't quick fixes to say, okay, here's this guy, glad to see him again. It's about making a full story, and sometimes those characters hang out for a bit until the time is right. With the Ahsoka series set to air in August, wouldn't it have made sense to have Ahsoka in The Mandalorian Season 3? No, not really. Just because they're in the same timeline doesn't mean their paths cross at every junction. Sometimes we have to wait. Now, with all that said, I do think they could have found a way to include Boba Fett in The Mandalorian Season 3. When Bo-Katan was sent out to unite all tribes of Mandalorians, Clan Fett could have been an easy one. At the end of the Book of Boba Fett, Boba told Fennec Shand that he wasn't cut out for the gratuitous life he was falling into, convincing him that traveling to Mandalore to help fight for the home of his roots would have been an easy fix, especially when Din Djarin helped him fight for Tatooine, a place Din Djarin had no real stake in. He did it out of loyalty to Boba Fett, and I'm not saying bring him in for the finale, but have him group up with everyone on Navarro. Differences could have been hashed out there. Then, at the end of the show, have Boba Fett taking the creed in the living waters alongside Ragnar, or not. But I say all that because I'm a Boba Fett fan. When I put aside that aspect, it really needs to be saved for something allowing time for his arc to expand. I know I'm all over the place with this, but when I think about it, not including Boba Fett was for a reason. It's a fine line between great storytelling and just giving us fans something familiar. Would I have complained if Boba Fett did show up? Not at all. But I think it's fine that he didn't show up in The Mandalorian Season 3 as well. Just don't leave him in limbo for too long. We're waiting and don't want to see a character with so much potential just left to rot in the sands of Tatooine. Just look at what he became in the expanded universe. There's so much story potential there. But what did you think? Was it a missed opportunity? Did Boba Fett deserve retribution for his missing episodes in his own show? Would you like to see a Book of Boba Fett Season 2 where his character gets the proper treatment? Let me know in the comments below. And before I go, another quick word from our sponsor who looks death in the eye. And yeah, I kind of cried and peed when that happened. But our sponsor still came out on top. It's me. Hit the subscribe button and give the video a big stupid thumbs up. I'm on a crazy ass mission to become the biggest and best Star Wars YouTube channel around, and I'd like you all to be a part of that journey. Figuring out this YouTube algorithm is harder than dodging a llama's spit, but together we can figure out this algorithm and inject tiger blood into this channel. But I can't teach you how not to get spit on by a llama. Sorry. Just don't piss them off. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Until the next video, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way. And positivity in the Star Wars community should be the only way.